the station working for you. This is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
This time tomorrow, we will know whether the first doses of a COVID-19 vaccine are on the way to Indiana. Thank you for joining us. I'm Amanda Starrentino.
And I'm Mark Mullins. Tonight at 11, we're sharing everything we've learned so far about how the vaccine works and how it will be distributed in Indiana. Tomorrow, a group will decide whether a vaccine candidate from Pfizer should be approved for use by the FDA. Frontline healthcare workers will be the first group offered the vaccine. It won't be widely available until next year, but we know families have questions and concerns.
Our team coverage starts with Cornelius Hawker with a look at what families should keep in mind about COVID-19 vaccines and children.
This is one of the only things getting Tiffany Fincher and her husband Ben through these challenging times.
We now have a newborn and kind of just living a wonderful life. Never been happier.
Being forced to keep to themselves because of the pandemic worked the first month of their new baby's life.
Nobody was going to question why we didn't want them and friends and anybody around.
But now
we're to the point where in a regular year, we'd probably be sharing him a little bit more with everybody and having a couple friends over, at least some close family.
For parents seeking a sense of normalcy, Dr. John Christensen with Riley Children's Health says it's important that adults get the vaccine when it's available because for now, it will not be available to kids.
These vaccines are well studied, and I think the data will show that they're pretty effective and safe.
Despite that, Dr. Christensen knows parents have questions about vaccinating their children. We can know much more in the coming months.
Some people have predicted that probably you're not going to see widespread vaccination in young children probably until the summer.
The doctor says there are lots of variables and the vaccine will be studied extensively before given to kids. For parents worried about side effects, he says the most common will be potential pain where you get the shot, muscle aches, fatigue, and in some cases, a fever. But he stresses this point.
They have nothing to do with getting COVID from the vaccine. What they are is your own immune response responding to this substance that you're injecting into the arm.
When it is offered freely, hopefully by that point we'll have more information and we can make the right decision. We will want to take it.
Tiffany and her husband want to take it to protect their family and start getting back to normal. Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, WRTV.
There are also a lot of questions about women who are pregnant getting the vaccine. That's a conversation they are urged to have with their doctor because currently there's no data on how safe vaccines are for those who are pregnant.
At today's weekly briefing on the pandemic, Indiana's chief medical officer acknowledged that some people are hesitant about taking the vaccine. In an effort to help ease those concerns, she explained the exact science behind it.
Many vaccines put a weakened or inactivated germ into our bodies, but these vaccines that we will be receiving first are mRNA vaccines, and they take a different approach. They teach our cells how to make a harmless protein called the spike protein that is found on the surface of the virus that causes COVID-19. This protein then triggers an immune response inside our bodies. That immune response produces antibodies to protect us from getting infected if the real virus enters our bodies. These vaccines cannot give someone COVID-19. They do not use live virus. They also don't interact or affect our DNA in any way. While this will be the first mRNA vaccine approved for use, researchers have been studying this and working on these vaccines for decades.
That explanation might not be enough for some people. Concerns, skepticism, or questions may depend on your background. For African Americans, vaccines and medical research are tied to a dark history. WRTV's Cameron Riddle shows how leaders in the Black community could play a role in easing fears.
As Indiana waits for its first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, there is hesitation among many Hoosiers, but that hesitation is likely highest among African Americans.
As a pastor of 32 years and as a professor for several years and just, kind of a social scientist myself, I can tell you it's not going to just be do this and the African American culture by and large embraces it. It's not going to work that way.
The community's mistrust of medical research goes back hundreds of years to the days of slavery and continues today. Many of them know the story of a group of black men from Tuskegee, Alabama, who were used by researchers to track the then unknown course of syphilis from 1932 to the 1970s.
They were enrolled in 1932, and even though there was medication available in 1947 that could have treated the syphilis, they were not told.
Elaine Hernandez is a medical sociologist at Indiana University. She says while people of all backgrounds may be hesitant to take the new vaccine, the history of African Americans and medical research must be acknowledged.
Everything that we've seen so far this summer, all of the systematic racism and institutional racism that exists in other institutions exists in medical institutions as well.
Dr. Clyde Posley Jr. is an Indianapolis pastor who hasn't held an in-person church service since March. He says when the coronavirus vaccine is available, he'll gladly take it and even do it publicly, but only after enough people have taken the first round and it's proven safe. He says only when that's done can the Black church push their members to get the vaccine.
There is, of the people I've talked to, there's a consensus that we would like to see some specific trials relative to Black people, headed by Black people, and influenced by Black stakeholders in the African-American community.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
All eyes will be on tomorrow's FDA meeting when a committee of independent doctors and scientists will analyze the data on Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. If they vote in favor of an emergency use authorization, thousands of doses of the vaccine will be in Indiana by next week.
This is incredibly exciting news because it signals the beginning of the end of this pandemic.
State Department of Health Chief Medical Officer Dr. Lindsay Weaver says 55,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine could be shipped to 5 Indiana hospitals by next week. By the end of next week, additional doses will be sent to 50 more hospitals across the state.
These vaccines will go to frontline healthcare workers who are at risk of exposure to COVID-19 while providing direct care to patients.
Dr. Weaver says that group includes hospital and long-term care facility staff for a total of 400,000 Hoosiers. She says vaccination of that group, plus residents of long-term care facilities, will continue into January. After that group, the state is using guidance from national experts and the CDC to determine who the vaccine will be available to next.
At this time, we can't predict when we will move into the next phase because it will depend, like I said, on vaccine supplies as well as how many Hoosiers choose to get the vaccine.
Vaccine distribution could be bolstered by more approvals by the FDA in the coming weeks. In the meantime, Governor Holcomb says Indiana will have a system in place to start protecting Hoosiers.
Once we get it here, we have the protocol put in place and we've practiced, so we're not going to spill or waste precious life-saving resources when they get here.
According to everything that we've heard from state and federal officials, late spring to the end of June is when we can expect a COVID vaccine to be widely available.
IU Health Methodist is one of 5 Indiana hospitals chosen as pilot sites to receive the first vaccine shipments. I spoke with IU Health's Director of Pharmacy about the logistics of receiving Pfizer's vaccine, which requires 2 doses and ultra-cold storage.
We received 2 -80 freezers that we repurposed from our lab colleagues that were not in use at the time. So we've kind of relocated those to Methodist. So we have 2 -80 freezers ready to receive the Pfizer vaccine. The state is using a third-party kind of app software system that healthcare workers will register their appointment to get the vaccine. And that system will then also prompt them based on what vaccine they get as to when they need to schedule for the next vaccination. So the Pfizer products are at 21 days. The Moderna product will be at 28 days. And so the system will help prompt them as to, all right, you need to get your 21-day shot.
Trujillo says vaccinations will be staggered among hospital departments to account for reports of possible side effects of the vaccine, including fever and fatigue.
So healthcare staffers will be the first to get the vaccine if they choose to do so. But can workplaces require employees to get vaccinated? We took that question to an attorney. Aaron Williamson tells WRTV the industry standard is for employers to educate workers about vaccines. But in the Hoosier state, companies can take it a step further.
Indiana being an at-will state, private employer, they can mandate it, but they do so with a couple of restraints and potential exposure for lawsuits.
Employees can sue and opt out of receiving the vaccine for several reasons. The CDC estimates that when companies have a mandatory vaccination policy, 85% of employees participate. Without one, participation tends to fall to 43%.
As we learn more about COVID-19 vaccines, their effectiveness and their distribution, we will keep bringing you the latest updates from local and national health officials and medical professionals. You can find everything we covered tonight at WRTV.com in our vaccine Q&A, and reach out to us if you are looking for an answer.
We'll hear from the governor just ahead, the new restrictions he's mandating after comparing Indiana's COVID outbreak to the state being on fire. Kevin.
Clear and relatively cold right now in central Indiana. We'll give you the reasons tomorrow will be the best day of the week and look at our weekend rain chances.
And new at 11, see the special celebration for a central Indiana woman who marked a big milestone today while recovering from COVID. New tonight, a ray of light amid the darkness of the pandemic. This evening, IU Health Methodist hosted a Tree of Hope lighting ceremony. The event honored patients who have suffered from COVID-19, as well as the doctors, nurses, and other staffers caring for those patients. Each ornament on the tree represents a person who battled COVID-19 on IU Health's inpatient units and survived. One exception is Sandra Vaughn. She died from the virus in June. An ornament in her honor is on the tree from her daughter.
I think that we have to hopefully remember that patients and people like my mother didn't die in vain, right? That we learned from her, and we learned from people that unfortunately we couldn't save at the time, right? From them. And so we keep carrying that hope, and we're going to keep getting better.
The ornaments were donated by team members who helped COVID patients through their battle.
Restrictions are returning to Indiana hospitals starting 1 week from today. Governor Holcomb says hospitals are being directed to postpone all non-urgent inpatient surgeries December 16th through January 3rd. The goal is to help free up space in intensive care units in hospitals. This comes as COVID cases, hospitalizations, and deaths continue to spike.
This is a directive that I don't take lightly. I understand the impact this will have on our hospital network overall. We have talked to them not just weekly, but daily.
36 of Indiana's 92 counties are in red, meaning the highest rate of spread. Last week, there were only 16.
Central Indiana families continue to find creative and special ways to safely celebrate major milestones. Roberta Nelson turned 100 today. She lives in a long-term care facility in Carmel and is currently recovering from COVID. Ms. Nelson is in isolation right now, but that did not stop her family from putting together this birthday concert right outside of her window.
Normally, she's not really fond of big birthday bashes, and my brother had asked her, are you excited about turning 100? She said, no. Very emphatically, no.
but you got to celebrate anyway.
Yeah. If not for her, for us.
We wish Ms. Nelson a happy birthday and a speedy recovery. 100 years old, Kevin. That's awesome.
That's awesome. And you got to go big, right? Whether she wanted the party or not, you got to go for it.
At 100, I feel like you don't get a choice. If your family wants to celebrate, you're celebrating.
You got it. Well, we'll all celebrate temperatures tomorrow back in the 50s, something to look forward to. We're down to the freezing mark now. It's 34 in Bloomington. We're at 37 in Indy, but tomorrow morning we'll be in the 20s. Couple things overnight tonight. There's a very low chance we could see the northern lights. It's more likely in lower Michigan and the Great Lakes, but you never say never. So if you're just out for some reason in the early morning hours, take a look at the sky, and maybe tomorrow night as well. Patchy fog in the morning is likely. Don't think it'll be a big problem, but with temperatures in the 20s, you always have to kind of watch for some freezing fog. The fact that our temperatures today were warm helps keep the ground warm. There are the temperatures tomorrow morning in the 20s. We start colder. That's one of the colder temperatures in the 70s, but a nice south wind that's 10 to 20 miles per hour balloons the temperature to 57 tomorrow afternoon. More clouds, but still dry Friday. Then Saturday, rain is likely, periods of rain through the day. Temperatures tomorrow, 50s to the north, lower to middle 50s. Western Indiana, middle to upper 50s, and that's pretty common along Interstate 70 and areas to the south. The question is, will anyone touch 60? And that'll be dependent on cloud cover. Most of us will have lots of sunshine, but we'll see a few more clouds. We'll see a lot more clouds Friday, 55, and cloudy in the afternoon hours. Watch our weather system come out of New Mexico and the Four Corners area, spreading rain on the mild side, which is where we'll be, and snow from Nebraska through Iowa into Wisconsin. Our event will bring half an inch of rain or more to the state, and the cold air won't catch the remaining moisture, so it seems unlikely that we would see any snow on the back side of this. 55 Saturday, 39 for the temperature on Sunday. There's your strong wind Saturday. Eventually it will change direction, gusting over 30 miles per hour out of the south, and then go west, northwest, and we'll say hello to some Canadian air. Sunday and Monday, highs back into the 30s, lower 20s for low temperatures by the time we get to Tuesday morning. Very spring-like, comfortable, and then more winter as we get to early next week.
Looks good. Thanks, Kevin. December is usually a busy time for restaurants with holiday parties, catering, and hungry shoppers. But that's not the case this year as the pandemic continues. And unfortunately, the coming months look grim as well. According to a new survey from the National Restaurant Association, more than 30% of Indiana restaurant owners do not expect to be open in the next 6 months. Martha Hoover is the founder and president of Patachu. Her company owns and operates 14 restaurants in the Hoosier State. She says the industry's struggles will have a ripple effect.
It doesn't just impact the restaurant owner. It doesn't just impact the chefs and the cooks and the servers. Our industry impacts the people who deliver linen, our farmers, our vendors, the people we do business with, our wine salespeople. Our ecosystem is huge.
Hoover says Hoosiers can help the industry by encouraging your representatives in Congress to support a second round of economic relief.
While places like Tucson, Arizona do not have to worry about snow or sub-zero temperatures, restaurant owners in those areas are still worried if people will sit outside to dine in the winter. Scripps reporter Alexa Liaco shows how one beloved business owner in the Southwest is embracing the changing seasons.
A trip to Little Anthony's Diner is a trip back in time. This family-owned restaurant has been serving up tasty treats with a side of nostalgia for the past 43 years.
I grew up loving it. My family grew up loving it. It's a Tucson staple.
But COVID-19 threatened to put this neighborhood treasure out of business.
11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock, we're going to rock around. Right from the start, it impacted us so huge that it was almost devastating. So every day you wake up and you see the news, another restaurant or 3 restaurants closing in our area, it's scary.
A lot of business was lost after months of restrictions. So manager Heather Stricker knew she'd have to get creative to save the place special to her and so many others.
I think that if we hadn't pivoted, we would have been in real trouble and very quickly.
So they took a page from history, hoping it would protect the legacy they've built, especially through the cold winter months ahead.
Hi guys, how are we doing?
Reviving the car hop in hopes of revving up their business.
You pull up into our parking lot in your car, and we have a server who's masked and gloved come out, take your order, and deliver your food right to the car.
It's a safe way to keep customers coming in without stepping into the restaurant.
Is it a good thing we got the cheese sauce? Yes, it's really nice that we can actually do this without so much worry about what might happen while we're out. We're right beside our own car, but yet we have our own space that we can be together and enjoy this concert, which we've been dying to see.
The concert's just one more way the restaurant is hoping to keep their drive-in full.
We love this music.
And when it gets colder and sitting outside is no longer an option, the live music plays through your car.
There's always going to be an option no matter how cold it gets. And we've had some cold nights and we made it through and everybody had a great time. We're excited. We're excited to keep going.
And the customers are excited for a brief escape from a year of loneliness.
Having all these people around us, it just feels, I don't know, it feels a little bit like a touch of normalcy. I have never done anything like this before. I think it's really cool.
For regular diners and car enthusiasts Sue and Robert Ellison, this new experience brings their favorite era back to life.
I would come to places like this with my parents, so I remember me and my sister sitting in the back seat pulling up to something like this and ordering. It's a nice flashback to a fun time.
And for me, it's fun to experience something I never lived through before.
Because in this time where the future is so uncertain, looking back could just be the way to move forward.
We've decided we're not going to quit. We're not going to give up, no matter how long this takes. We are in it for the long haul. We just hope it's not too much longer.
Because with some imagination, this team can keep Tucson's iconic neon lights bright.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back.
I'm Alexa Liacco.
From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
A heartbreaking loss for the IU men's basketball team in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. They played Florida State tonight. The game went back and forth. The Hoosiers tied things up late in regulation to send the game to overtime, but FSU hit a game winner with less than 2 seconds left in OT. Hoosiers lose 69-67.
It's unclear when IU's historic football season will continue. Earlier today, Indiana and Purdue announced a joint decision to cancel the Old Oaken Bucket game due to COVID concerns. Then later this afternoon, the Big Ten announced a change to the rules to get Ohio State into the conference title game. Officials say the Conference Administrators Council voted to eliminate the minimum game requirement to play in the championship. Under the rules the Big Ten agreed to before the start of this shortened season, IU earned the right to play in that game. Scott Dolson, the university's vice president and director of intercollegiate athletics, released a statement on Twitter saying in part, quote, "Although we understand the conference's decision, we are disappointed. From the start of the year, we have said that we can only control what we can control. We had a chance to earn our spot in the Big Ten championship game, but ultimately fell a touchdown short on the road against the great Ohio State team. We look forward to resuming activities and completing one of the best seasons in our school's history," end quote.
Temperatures tomorrow morning in the upper 20s, but look at Friday morning and then Saturday. These overnight lows will continue to warm up. Tomorrow, a great day, Amanda, because we'll have sunshine again, slightly warmer temperatures around, and it's December. You can't argue with that. What a great day.
Thanks for making WRTV your choice for news. Good Morning Indiana starts at 4:30.